Welcome in to Locked On Sports Minnesota. I'm Sam Ekstrom. It is our Wednesday football special. Again, my name's Sam Ekstrom, executive producer, Locked On Sports Minnesota. Carol Evans, Julia Daniels fills in for Reggie Wilson today. Great to have Julia aboard. She also joins us on Fridays. And Ron Johnson, host of the Ron Johnson Show. He's part of everything we do here at Locked On Sports Minnesota. He's at 3Ron Johnson on Twitter/X. Let's talk Vikings Jets in London today. Facing Aaron Rodgers again, it's going to be great to renew that rivalry. Are the Vikings NFC North favorites in your mind, or is Detroit hot on their heels? Are they still the team to beat? Also want to get these two's opinion on KOC's aggressive nature with his play calling, his fourth down decision making, all of that coming up on today's show. It's brought to you by FanDuel. Bet 5, get 200. That's their promotion right now. All new customers with their first $5 bet get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. FanDuel.com to get started. All right, let's dive right in. Now, before we get to the Jets in London, I want to backtrack to Monday night. I think people had all eyes on that Lions-Seahawks game. And you really couldn't lose if you're a Vikings fan, because if the Lions lose, you get a 2-game lead in the division. If the Seahawks lose, you're all alone atop the NFC with the only undefeated record. So the Lions hang 42 on the Seahawks. They win by 13. Offense basically had a perfect night for Detroit. Their defense, I don't know. Terrion Arnold was holding people all night. But Julie, I'll give you the first crack since you're our guest today on this Wednesday special. Are the Vikings officially the team to beat in the NFC North, or do you feel like with what the Lions showed Monday that they are still a force to be reckoned with?
Oh, that is such a good question. Are we talking like in general our opinion of the teams themselves, or just like how they're viewed by the general public?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, and I think it's fair to say the Vikings are still being slept on by a lot of people. But in your opinion, Julia, like, despite the records, I mean, the records are one game apart, but do you think the Lions still, over the course of the season, are the better team than Minnesota, or the higher ceiling maybe is the better question?
I think the expectation for the Lions, this is a tough one because it's two teams that were just kind of sleepers if we talked about them 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're in this spot where, did you have it on your bingo card for 2024 that you were going to be talking about, or are the Vikings and the Lions the best teams? I would say I'm going to go with Vikings on this one. I'm going to say, just because they are going to consistently have this underdog mentality, I think, because people are going to sleep on them. I think that we have really yet to tap in to what this offense is capable of. I think Brian Flores is a mad scientist as well. And I'm going to go with Vikings. Vikings, I think that they're on both sides of the ball. Losing my voice.
Excuse you.
On both sides of the ball, they do a really good job of disguising whatever's coming next when the ball is snapped. And I think they do a really good job of just keeping opponents on their toes in terms of like what is coming next. We'll talk about it later when it comes to Kevin O'Connell and his aggressive play calling. But I'm going to go with Vikings on this one. They're undefeated. I think that you could probably watch all the film that you wanted on them, but at the end of the day, I think they have a bag of tricks that they have yet to unleash. So I would go with Vikings for sure. I think that the Vikings are the NFC North favorite. They're definitely the team to beat right now.
FanDuel would say Vikings as well. FanDuel has the Vikings at plus 125. Very close. The Lions are right behind them at plus 145, but the Vikings get the slight edge. Ron, we've been talking about these two teams all offseason, and the Lions were obviously the heavy favorite. Where do you think we're at now at the quarter mark of the season?
Well, okay, so it comes down to stats. I mean, I got to go with the stats right now. When you look at who the Lions have played, who the Vikings have played, they both had some tough competition. I'm still going to give it to the Lions. And the reason is because they know how to finish games. I haven't seen the Vikings yet finish a game when it gets close. It feels like Brian Flores' defense as the games go on. And he even admitted it recently and just said, you know what, I got to do a better job of doing this. The Vikings right now, when you look at defense, they have the worst passing defense in the NFL. You look at what the Lions just did to the Seahawks with J-Mo Williamson. or Jameson Williams, and what that offense is able to do. You look at the passing out the backfield to the running backs. You look at finding the spots. You look at Jared Goff taking on the blitz and understanding, like, look, because a lot of people were trying to say, like, 18 for 18, like he didn't have any. He had trouble. He just knew exactly where to go with the ball, and so I'm still going to lean towards the Lions right now. I mean, of course, they're going to get the heads up. This is like it's a perfect storm of what the NFL wanted. If I were a script writer, this is what you want. You want the Vikings to go to London, maybe lose, doesn't matter, and you want or win and be undefeated bye week, and then you got the Lions. You want the Lions to win again. Where's my paper? I have a paper with you got the Lions heading into they have the bye week. So the Lions have a bye week.
Early bye. Yeah.
They have an early bye. So you got the Lions on a bye, and then they're going to turn around and play. I forgot who they play next week, but then they travel to play the Minnesota Vikings on October 20th. So when you look at the way it's set up, you could have 2 5-1 teams or or an undefeated team and a 1-loss team heading into that week. And so that's gonna tell us. But right now, the Vikings have a better offense and the Lions have a better defense. And so where does the rubber meet the road? I think the Lions are a true blue-collar team. I think they travel well. I will say their cornerbacks are trash. They like DK Metcalf gave them everything they wanted and a bag of Skittles. We know he keeps a bag of Skittles on him every day he can. And so if you haven't seen the story, people, he said he drinks like 2 to 3 cups of coffee and he eats like 2 to 4 packs of Skittles. Like that's his lunch and his dinner and his breakfast. Like he is an absolute ridiculousness. And then him and Shannon Sharp kind of got into it about that. And he was like, see, this is wrong with you young people. I'm telling you how to do it, how to keep your body right. And he's like, well, I'm going to do it my way and show you I can still be a Hall of Famer. And Shannon Sharp's just like, all right, it's like talking to my kid. And it is. It's like talking to a little kid. Like, dude, you can't eat Skittles. Like, eventually those Skittles are going to catch up to you. And maybe you could be even better. But when you watch what DK Metcalf did to the Lions DBs, he gave them everything they wanted. And so that's where I think Justin Jefferson and a healthy Jordan Addison are going to give them fit. So I will give the edge to the Lions just because this is a defensive league and defense wins championships. And so I'm gonna give it to the Lions, but I think the Vikings are right there.
Yeah. Ron, you think the Vikings offense is a tad better than the Lions. And I think through the first 4 games, I would definitely agree with you. I do think when the Lions score 42, you see what they can do on offense, what their potential is. There's a high level of execution there with what they do in the run game. The way that they get their tight ends involved, although Laporta's had a slow start to the year. They've got a lot of speed. They've got weapons. Their offensive line is legit. Like, I think it's a really well-balanced offense. Ben Johnson's probably one of the best play callers in the league, the way he sets you up. And the way that they can function scares me. I think it gives them a very high ceiling. And I think there's some concerns with that defense, particularly the secondary. You're right, Ron. Terrion Arnold is a penalty machine right now. I can't remember if it was 8 penalties or 5 penalties. He's got a lot of penalties in the first 4 games of the season, and he's playing a ton. It's Arnold, it's Carlton Davis, it's Amik Robinson, their cornerbacks. And by the way, they play the Cowboys, Ron, next week after the bye.
That should be a win. That should be a win. They'll beat the Cowboys, and then there'll be a 1-loss team or 2 1-loss teams heading into that week.
Yeah, Julia, do you have what do you think about that? Ron's just giving it to the Lions against the Cowboys.
I've already checked out from the Cowboys this season. I'm so over it.
You're all in on Bama. I mean, you're just roll tiding.
Ron, actually.
Like looking at the teams and the picks, like I'm kind of trying to figure out these picks. Like the Cowboys got the Steelers and then the Lions. Like that's,
I know.
You're giving them everything they want. And one more thing I'll say about the Vikings and the Lions, they both have really good rush defenses right now. The Vikings have only given up 300 yards in 4 games, and the Lions have only given up 363. So neither has the over 100 average right now. And I think the Vikings, though, the reason why the Vikings are having like pass issues is because teams are having to throw the ball against them to come back in the games. PJ Fleck yesterday on the PJ Fleck show aired at 10:35 last night. For those that saw it, by the way, Pierre Nugent, congrats, he got engaged. We broke that news on the PJ Fleck show to PJ Fleck. He had no idea, so he gave some wedding advice and some marriage advice from PJ Fleck. So you guys want to check that out. But PJ talked about the Michigan game as well because they were saying, with Darius Taylor, how do you not give him more touches? It's been, multiple games now where Darius Taylor doesn't have enough touches. And he's like, well, when you're losing the games the way we're losing them, it's tough to just run the ball when we know we're in a throwing situation. And I think that's what the Vikings defense is doing to teams. They're forcing them to have to throw the ball, knowing like if you run the ball, you're running right because the clock's going to run. You're not getting a lot of yards. We got to get some big plays. And also that Packers, 90 something yard drive on 4-5 plays, like that also murdered their pass defensive stats. So yeah, I think it'll come back to him a little bit. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers is still going to be pissed off with the towel over his head in London. But I think this is definitely going to be a game that the Vikings Lions, like, because when people put the Vikings Lions on the schedule, I don't think they had the Lions winning this, I don't think they had the Vikings having a chance to win this one with Sam Darnold. And now it's like, well, wait a minute, Sam Darnold's up for MVP.
Yeah, and the stats can be a little deceiving right now with that Vikings defense too, because I believe they're last in pass yards allowed, but yards per pass attempt, I think they're 11th, which is pretty good. Their teams are throwing against them all game because the Vikings are building 20-point leads. That just changes the way that you play defense. I would boil it down to this. Lions, better talent on defense. Vikings, better scheme. I think this Brian Flores scheme is legit. And my Lions buddy, shout out to Sam Berhalst, who texts me all the time about this. He thinks that if you switched Flores and Aaron Glenn, the Lions would be the juggernaut and the Vikings would be in some trouble.
I don't know. Not with those DBs, though. Terrion Arnold can't think fast. Like, like I don't know if you saw the play, Sam, where he tackled the receiver. Nothing to get. I think he's a Bama guy, right? Sorry.
And he was like aghast that they called the flag, and then
right, yeah, and he's like pointing to the like he's pointing to the jumbotron, like telling the refs, like, "Look, I didn't do anything." And then you watch it, and he literally grabs the guy and pulls him down. Like Leo DiCaprio trying to hang on to the door on the Titanic or something. Like, dude, like you literally pulled him. Like that is the letter of the law. If you want him to run you over, just put your hands out like this and let him run you over. You can't pull your hands down. So yeah. He doesn't think fast enough, I don't think, for Brian Flores.
Let's pivot to Rodgers, London, Jets. So much to discuss as a rivalry gets renewed on Sunday morning. That's next on our Wednesday football special. Be right back. Shortly, we will be making our Week 5 picks using the lines from FanDuel. FanDuel is the place to bet for the NFL season, and you can get a big return right now at America's #1 sportsbook. New customers, make a $5 bet, get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. When you have that $200, the world is your oyster. You can put a little money on the lines, a little on the over-unders. You can make some future bets, some parlays, endless options. MLB playoffs in full swing. Ron's Tigers, just ride the Tigers. Bet the Tigers every game the way they're playing right now. Also, WNBA playoffs, the Lynx evening that series up 1-1. You can do it all at FanDuel.com with $200 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Make every moment more. Ron's gone. Julia, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. I didn't
a little commercial break. I'm back.
Yeah, he's back. He's handling some business. I avoided this at all costs. I didn't want to do it, but I eventually caved. I sat down.
You drank some ayahuasca?
I felt like it. I watched all 13 minutes of the highlight reel from Jets Broncos last Sunday. I didn't think I would make it through. I didn't think I would survive, but I did.
There were highlights?
And I watched
were lowlights.
Video of paint drying, so we basically did the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like watching the grass grow, all those cliches apply to that highlight reel. It was ugly. It was ugly in a lot of ways. But you know what I took away from it? I don't trust the Jets. Like, you can sleep on the Jets. The penalties, 13 of them against the Broncos. The offensive line gave up 5 sacks. The run defense got gashed by a Broncos team that couldn't throw the ball. And still, run defense just got destroyed. You can sleep on all of that. Sleep on Robert Saleh. I'm still not sleeping on Aaron Rodgers because I watched that full reel. And even though it was not a good offensive day for the Jets, I felt like Rodgers showed a lot of Rodgers stuff. Throwing off platform, we're doing a little bit of running, even though he's not super mobile, getting out of the pocket. He makes throws in tight windows. He challenges defensive backs, back shoulder stuff. I still think he's got something in the tank. And that's what concerns me, is that if the rest of the group around him puts it together, I think Rodgers is still legit. And I don't think he's going to gift wrap you interceptions the way Jordan Love did. So, Ron, Rodgers is the guy that concerns me. Not a whole lot else on the Jets, to be honest with you. But Rodgers can win you a game on the right day.
Yeah, that's why a lot of the Jets fans and the Raiders fans are like trying to see if there's a way Davante Adams can get back to Aaron Rodgers, and then the Raiders would get younger and they would get Garrett Wilson. I don't think that's going to happen. That would be the dumbest trade ever when you have a young asset like that. But also, Davante Adams is legit, but you're renting him. You're renting him for 2 to 3 more years. Whereas Garrett Wilson, you probably have a chance to sign him to a Terry McLaurin, Justin Jefferson, type of contract where he could be a part of your organization for at least 5 or 6 more years. So I just don't know if you see that happening. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers still has it. Aaron Rodgers is super smart. He's super cerebral. He reminds me of like Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady towards the end of their careers. He's making the right plays because he doesn't want to run. He's making the right plays because he doesn't want to get hit. And so Aaron Rodgers still has it. The problem is that offensive line at times, it feels like Aaron Rodgers communicates and they get confused to where, and then like you're saying, Sam, some of the guys aren't running. I don't know if they're running the wrong routes or Rodgers is changing it and they don't know what he changed it to. But it does seem like there's a little bit of miscommunication, and you can tell, like if it was Rodgers' fault, his body language would tell you everything. Because when he comes to the sideline, he'll kind of do the come sit down, let me show you. But when he's doing the towel over the head, when he's doing the looking at the coach, when he's doing the all right, man, whatever, it's somebody else's fault. And that's the one thing. Like he was on the McAfee show and they asked him about that. And he said, I'm just a winner. I just want to win. So I don't know why people are assuming I'm just mad at my team or something and blah, blah. And there's turmoil. It's like your body language is telling us that it is. And so there's something off with the communication. I don't know if it's like the offensive coordinator's calling one thing and he wants to do something else, or he's just over communicating, because I've been a part of that where there's too much communication and the guys are getting confused. Because we talked about the green dot. I was just talking to I forgot who I was talking to about it, but we were talking about Peyton Manning and we were talking about the green dot. And it was a former player. And he was like, you know what, when Peyton Manning would come in, it was Reggie Wayne. And I forgot about this too. And he said when Peyton would come in, he would have 3 plays in his headset from Tom Moore. But he wouldn't confuse the players. He would just go to the line of scrimmage and just say, here's the formation, get to the line. I think some people are actually saying, and we've heard this, Sam and Julie, you've heard this when they're mic'd up, they'll say 383, slot left, zip, R flat, Y in. And that's the whole joke that I think was it Chris Sims, Sam, the whole Chris Sims and what's his name? The Jay Gruden, when he's like, are you kidding me? And he reads it 7 times to him. And then after all of that, he'll say, kill to jet sweep left 46 counter on 1. Like, what? Wait. So then he comes to the line of scrimmage. He's like, kill, kill, kill. And then they're like, wait, what was the kill play? Because we're still thinking about the first play. That's what I think happens in some of these West Coast offices. And that's what Aaron Rodgers is used to. But it works when you have Jordy Nelson, Davante Adams. He doesn't have that right now. And I think that's what he's a little bit upset about.
Yeah. But this seems like it's par for the course for Rodgers every year. I don't know, maybe 5 years ago when Rodgers started getting a little more crotchety and there was a coaching change and he was upset about Jordan Love getting drafted. Rodgers made a heel turn and where he got way more vocal. And every year this happens where he's mad at his young receivers. He's mad at his offensive line. He's not on the same page as his head coach. And we even heard it after the Broncos game. Someone said, Robert Saleh said you might need to simplify the cadence. And then Rodgers is like, well, that's one way to look at it. Or we could just hold guys accountable. Whoa. It took you 4 games and you're already having words with the head coach through the media. Yep. That's kind of odd. Julia, how do you read this Rodgers season so far? And what do you make of Sunday's game?
By the way, before Julia goes, I didn't know Robert Saleh. I didn't know that's what I never actually heard what the argument was. I just heard that Rodgers was going to call Saleh to his office. So I didn't realize that was the argument, which is why I said, Julia, they were saying there was rumors that Aaron Rodgers was going to show up to the facility and there was going to be a letter on Robert Saleh's desk saying, please report to Aaron Rodgers' office.
Oh my God. There's a reason that there's there's a reason that there's like a power hierarchy when it comes to sports, right? And it's like Aaron Rodgers doesn't care about any of that. He hasn't cared for years. I do think you're right in saying cerebral. I'm going to start using that word now. I think that Aaron Rodgers
is from the Marvel movies.
I love that.
Professor X. He's very cerebral.
Yeah. I think Aaron Rodgers is one of, if not the smartest quarterback in the league. I think that he will, for a lot of offenses, it's hard to read what Brian Flores is doing. You know, you've seen it in the post-game interactions that these players have had with Brian Flores after games. And like when Brock Purdy was like, your scheme is crazy, man. You know, if anyone's going to be able to figure it out quick, I feel like it's Aaron Rodgers. I feel like, yeah, he, at the same time, it's almost like, and I hate to make this analogy, but like, it's fitting for Aaron Rodgers. Like, it's like he's high all the time and his brain is just like on 100,000%. You know, when the people make jokes about like when you're high, like this is a thought I had when I was high, you know, I feel like that's where his brain is at all times. So that's why like these guys that he's playing with, they're like, we don't know what you're talking about. We don't know what's going on because he's like 4 or 5 steps ahead of what's actually coming out of his mouth, baby. But I think that it's Aaron Rodgers, until he retires, he's going to be a quarterback no matter where he's at and what his team is doing that you're going to have to just really prepare for, because he knows. I mean, there's a reason that even at his age, how old is he, by the way?
37, I think.
Yeah,
I thought he was closer to 40, but
is he 39? Maybe is he LeBron?
He is 40. He's 40 years old.
Oh, he's Bron.
Yeah, I mean, there's a
he was
reason that at 40 years old that he's still relevant and playing the game. So yeah, I think that Aaron Rodgers is as good as he's ever been at 40 years old. So it's something that you never ever want to sleep on when it comes to, no matter what's going on with the Jets, you can't sleep on Aaron Rodgers.
That's crazy. LeBron is 40 and has a son in the NBA. Aaron Rodgers is 40 and he has a plant that he probably doesn't water enough. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing the dichotomy of athlete, like both great athletes, 2 different life paths. Sam, I was going to bring up one thing too before you jump into that. You were right. The Lions and the Vikings, though, both have faced the most pass plays in the NFL. 200 plays of passing for the Vikings, 185 for the Lions, both at 5.5 and 5.6 respectively per play, which at 200 plays, you do the math, 5.5 yards gained per play. That is going to put them up there in the numbers. But as a whole, they're not as high as everybody else when it comes to like yards per completion. Because there's some teams like the Rams, they're the worst at 7.3 yards per completion attempt. So yeah, like I didn't realize the Vikings have faced 200 pass plays this season already. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
that's 100 plays a game. I mean, that's 50 pass plays a game. When
you almost literally haven't trailed, that's the world you're going to live in. Your secondary is going to get tested, playing a lot of zone, playing some prevent. We definitely saw that against the Packers. I feel like we've learned something too about Achilles injuries this year. Like I think, and Ron, you were on this the whole time, to your credit. I think we've maybe gotten a little too presumptuous that people will come back from knee injuries and be just fine. Like knee injuries, 9 months, they'll be back. They'll be good. But Cousins, Rodgers, both back from Achilles, and I don't think either of them looking super comfortable. Not to say that they rushed it back or that trainers like made them play when they weren't ready, but hesitant, not willing to get hit, not looking forward to getting hit, maybe getting the ball out a little bit quicker than they want to because they don't want to get hit. I think that's certainly impacting their mindset. And I think, and Ron, you've watched Rodgers a handful of times this year. Is that kind of what you've seen, that he's very eager to get the ball out of his hands so he doesn't, take any contact?
So I don't think it's that, but it's the way they both got hurt. They both did the same exact thing. They put a lot of pressure into that back foot to push off and move up in the pocket. Kirk was trying to run against the Packers. Aaron Rodgers just was planting hard to step up and throw the ball. Now, if you watch them when they both back up, it has more of they're not on the balls of their feet anymore. They're kind of like, they turn that foot sideways to kind of put the pressure on that shin. which is why, because like people thought Kirk was limping. I don't think he's limping. I think his shins are just like, because that's a lot of work to do it that way, and that's a lot of like you're doing a lot of stuff you didn't have to do before. And so I don't think it's a limp. I just think it's like 40 or like when I wake up in the morning, I'm limping and I didn't do anything. And so I know like what they're going through at their age. Like I know Aaron Rodgers is like, like Brett Favre. Remember he said that. He said he said all the way from like 41 to 43. Was that with the Vikings 43 or was the Vikings 42? How old was he?
Favre turned 40 with the Vikings, I think.
So remember his story, Sam? Yeah. I don't know if you remember, Julia. You weren't here, but remember Favre said, I woke up every day and felt like I couldn't get out of bed at times. And he would like say it would take him like 30 minutes just to get out the bed. He was so hurt, so tired, so physically just drained. And then that's when Bowden Gates started getting looked into because they're like, oh, let's look into this thing because he took some hits he shouldn't have had to take. But for Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins, I think it is that, Sam, it's the hesitancy of wanting to like if you watch CJ Stroud step up in the pocket, you watch Jordan Love, you watch even Sam Darnold, they're putting pressure on that foot and Patrick Mahomes and they're going forward. Kirk and Aaron kind of like bounce and then they want to get balanced again and then move up. It's more like I want to make sure I don't do it again. And I don't think it's like, it might not hurt, but it's psychological. Like when you know what you did to hurt yourself, you probably don't want to do it again. And I remember Luke Braun broke down all this Kirk balance footwork stuff, and he's like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. You're going to have a quarterback that used to do this. And we know how Luke Braun is. And then all of a sudden the next week, after everybody brought it up to, then they switched them and they said, hey, you can't do that. You're fine. Move your foot a little bit. And so it's still, watch Kirk. It's still kind of turned sideways. Like he doesn't really want to push off like he used to when he was a Viking. So, or Washington, I don't even know what Redskin. I can say that. That was their name. And so when you think about that, yeah, Sam, I think it's not injury. It's hesitancy and mental of what they don't want to do, which is they don't want to like put any pressure on that's not needed.
And who knows what kind of sports psychiatrist Aaron Rodgers is seeing. So
a ayahuasca one.
I mean, it's true. They're probably all going to some kind of sports psychiatrist and, Aaron Rodgers, who knows what.
Well, the fact that Clinton Portis and Santana Moss said they took shots before one of their best games ever. So they just kept taking shots all season. Like, you never know what some people do to get going.
Aaron Rodgers struggles Sunday masked by the acquisition of Karl Anthony Towns. Now the New York media has a new target. Maybe that's going to be the best thing for Rodgers. Take some eyeballs off him. Have
you seen the Karl Anthony Towns short cartoon of him and Jalen Brunson going door to door? I think Bleacher Report or somebody did it. Oh, yeah.
Hilarious. Bleacher Report. Yeah, they do those animated
deals. It was like Stephen A. Smith with Cat and Jalen Brunson, and they were going door to door to the East. So they were like, they went to like the Sixers to see Joel Embiid and Paul George, and they went to the Boston Celtics, and nobody cared. And then at the end, Jalen Brunson was like, why isn't anybody scared of Cat? And Cat's like, and they use the Cat voice when he does the high voice thing. He's like, I don't know why nobody's scared of me.
I got to watch that ASAP after the show.
Oh, it's hilarious. Like everybody's door they go to, kind of like the Boston Celtics is Tatum and Brown. And so they kind of look like, man, we're the champs. Like, what is this? Who is this guy? And then they close the door. It's hilarious. Like they just went to all, like a lot of the teams in the East. I'm guessing they're going to keep going. But Stephen A. Smith was like going door to door, like, did you hear? We got the big cat. And the guy was like, that cat's not even scary. And he like closes the door. Oh yeah, it's hilarious.
I almost feel bad for Cat going into that firestorm. I mean, the Knicks media with this type of expectation on them is going to be brutal.
Well, ESPN talks about the Knicks every day because of Stephen A. Smith. So like, yeah, he's gonna like, he wanted that. You wanted to be popular. You're gonna get it, whether it's great or bad. Like remember Randy Johnson said that when he went to the Yankees. He was one of the best pitchers ever. And he said he couldn't handle the media and walking down the street because people constantly were coming up to him. So we'll see if Cat can handle it.
Very short pause, and then I want to get into KOC. He's shown a lot of aggression with the passing game, fourth down decisions. Let's talk about that when we return on our Wednesday football special. Quick pause. And to our everydayers that watch us all week long, thank you. We have the Minnesota Football Party Mondays and Thursdays, Ron Johnson Show on Tuesdays, and our roundtable on Fridays with Julia, Ron, Reggie Wilson, and myself talking all Minnesota sports. Today, it's about football. Today, it's about the Minnesota Vikings. Now, again, I wish I had the exact stat here because, again, the numbers can lie to you because the Vikings' run game has been fantastic this year. But if you break it down, a lot of that production has come late in games with the Vikings way ahead, trying to run the clock down, grind some yards out, keep possession of the football, and just finish the game. But if you look in what they would call neutral situations outside of garbage time, KOC, actually one of the most aggressive head coaches in the NFL in terms of run-pass balance. And I think we saw that against the Packers. Vikings are up by only 6. The game felt like it was slipping away. Instead of running it, instead of trying to chew some clock, KOC goes right to the air. JJ, Naylor, or whoever it was, a series of completions to work the ball down the field. He put the ball in Sam Darnold's hands, showed a lot of faith, a lot of trust there, and then went for it on a 4th and 1, which was pretty debatable. I was okay with it. Ron, I know you wanted them to kick the field goal, take the points.
Take the points.
But yeah, just an aggressiveness from KOC. Maybe he's trying to keep up with Dan Campbell. But Julia, give us the first word on this. How are you feeling about KOC's mentality with the play calling?
I mean, he told us post-game exactly why he did what he did. He's like, I want this team and these players to know the belief that I have in them. That's why we're not taking the safe way out. I want them to know that I believe in what they can do and their abilities. And I think it's been interesting covering Kevin O'Connell this year because I feel like we're getting to see way more of his personality than we have the past 2 seasons. He's been pretty mild, very politically correct about things, this, that, and the other. But this season in particular, we've kind of seen this spicier side of him. And I think that he's been working for the past 2 seasons on getting to a point like this where he can be aggressive and he can show this side of himself. I do think this week in particular, too, the thing that I keep seeing all over Twitter is when the Jets cut him, but they didn't even let him sit down to tell him that he was cut. And so everyone's like, is Kevin O'Connell going to be on his real revenge tour this week in London when it comes to the Jets and the organization as a whole? But I think it's exactly what he told us. I think it's just Kevin O'Connell wants his players to know that he believes in them. He rides with them. He believes in the product that they put on the field. And that's his way of going about showing that confidence that he has in his team. And it's cost them, it's helped them, and it's cost them at the same time. It's kind of been a balance of things. But I think it's just him figuring that out. And he finally has a team. I hate to say it, it just wasn't working with Kirk. It wasn't that kind of aggressiveness doesn't work when you have Kirk Cousins as your quarterback. Did we think it would work with Sam Darnold? No, we probably didn't think that was going to be the case. But yeah, I think it just comes down to the culture that he's trying to build in this organization. I think that's kind of an overused term, but at the same time, I think it applies here and that this is what he's been striving for. This is what he's been trying to build here. And I just think that we're seeing more and more of him and what he's actually going towards. And if you think about it, like that's the kind of mentality that does win you big championships and does get you far in the postseason. You can't, play it safe all the time. So I think it's just like they're peeling back the curtain a little bit more as to what exactly they want this organization and this team to look like. And I think that so far it's going well. They're winning the ball games, but it has definitely cost them still.
Yeah, I just want him to be consistent. Like, that's all I ask, is that like have kind of a compass and follow it. So earlier in that game, even though you're up by 28 points at one point, they had a 4th and 1 around midfield. They punted. If you want to be aggressive, be aggressive. Like, let's go for that. Let's put the pedal down. Let's not take the foot off the gas then. Let's have that mentality the whole game. That's what I'd like to see, is just, okay, if you've got 4th and 1s, don't flip-flop. Don't waffle. It's like the 16 in blackjack. Are you going to hit? You're going to stay. Just like have a mantra that you follow. That's what I'm looking for. Ron, what's your take on this?
So, sorry. Are we on Kevin O'Connell? I forgot what
we're talking KOC, the aggressiveness. The
4-1. Yeah, sorry, because I had the take in my head and I totally lost it. So my take was, yep, you brought it up, Sam, on the post-game show for those that listen to the Vikings fan line. Yes, it was a bunch of calls, and Eric Nordquist, co-host of the PA 9 to noon show on KFan Radio, he took I'm fine with that. If he gets it, then the game's over and we kneel down, the game's over. I get that. So I get that. Analytics. I don't feel like analytics would have said do that, but everybody's like they think it would have. Nobody knows. Like somebody would have to type in the whole situation and let the AI Oh, am I back? Am I good?
You're back. We got you.
Ooh.
Hello.
And so I'm just annoyed at how they did that. And so the only reason I say this is when you look at the situation, yes, they had to drive 97 yards, but they drove 97 yards with like hope. Like they had hope when they stopped the Vikings. So if you look at the momentum meter, I always look at that when I do with the movie Dodgeball. They talk about momentum, and the momentum meter. Like if you were to like have one, and I hate to go into my Dodgeball reference, but if you have one person on the court, you have two people on the other side, or even 3-on-1. If he catches the ball, one person's out and he comes back in. So it's a 2-player swing is what they call it in dodgeball. Now it's 2-on-2, super cool. Everybody, but I'm not gonna get into the movie Dodgeball, one of my favorite. Nobody makes me bleed my own blood. It's one of my favorite quotes. So, as if like, who else's blood would you bleed? But when you think about that, that was a momentum shift to the Packers. Packers offense runs out. They're super excited now. Like, we have a chance. Let's go. The Vikings are playing prevent defense. Not the way to do it. Or no, sorry, they're not playing prevent defense. They're playing like normal attack defense. And that's why Flores said, I should have gave my team a chance to win and put them in a better position. Play umbrella. Let them matriculate down the field. Don't let them take big chunks because you're going after the quarterback and they know what you're doing now in the fourth quarter. So I would have kicked the field goal, took the points, kicked it down, put them on their 20. And now they're thinking like, man, we need 2 touchdowns to win this game. That's a lot mentally to handle versus, man, if we get this touchdown, we need an onside kick. We just need a field goal and we end this. So I just think you take their mindset out to say 2 touchdowns wins it. You don't have enough time. Mm-hmm. Man, let's, we tried. We tried the best we could do.
Yeah, my thought is that with the onside kick being what it is in today's NFL, it's what, 1 in 20, 1 in 30 chance that you're going to recover that thing. It's so hard to recover. You're kind of in a win-win situation. If you go for it, you end the game. If you make it, you end the game. If you don't, and it's a 2-possession game, you're basically saying, okay, regardless of what happens here to Green Bay, if they score quickly, that's fine. It comes down to an onside kick that is almost impossible for Green Bay to recover. So kind of from a position of power, like KOC's in the catbird seat there, can't really go wrong. You're probably winning the game either way. I guess I appreciate the mentality to say, if we can get 1 yard and we think we can just end the game and kneel down. And then we win by 9. Everybody is patting us on the back the way it worked out. Yeah, people are criticizing him. But I think that the thought process there is that we believe that we can get a yard. We like our line. We like our running game. We like our blocking. It didn't work out. I still think they got hosed on the spot. But, we'll see how he adjusts as the season goes based on that decision. Like, will that affect the way he makes decisions in the future? I think that we'll find out more and more as the season goes on, as we get some closer games. We got our NFL picks coming up. We're going to make Julia pick for Reggie. Reggie went 2-1 last week, so Julia's got to uphold that standard. Quickly, though, before we get into the picks, I do want to touch on a little Gopher football. This is an all-football show. Gophers USC on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Julia, is there hope for Minnesota based on what we saw in the second half against Michigan, that they can still be a competitive team, that they can maybe become bowl eligible, they can pull an upset against USC? How are you feeling about the Gophers?
The Gophers are so confusing this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't know how to feel. But you know what? I will give the Gophers, unlike last week on the round table, I will give the Gophers the benefit of the doubt. They're at home too. It's a 6:30 kick, I believe. I'm going to give the Gophers the benefit of the doubt here. I'm going to say they have a shot. Do they take advantage of that shot? TBD. But I will say they've restored a little bit of faith I didn't get to really watch the Michigan game except for the very end there. But yeah, I think that we just don't really know who this Gopher team is yet in the season. They've not given us like a consistent answer of like who they are. But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Yeah.
They haven't played a great 60-minute game against a real team yet. I mean, I think there were moments against North Carolina. There was one good half against Iowa. There was one good half against Michigan, and then one really bad half against Iowa, one really bad half against Michigan. So, Ron, you talked to Ethan Robinson yesterday. You talked about the Gophers on the Ron Johnson show, so people can go check that out. But refresh us on kind of your thought on how the comeback against Michigan just changes the perception of this team.
So the comeback against Michigan. So PJ brought this up on the PJ Flex show. I met with Ethan Robinson yesterday, who, by the way, is legit 6 feet tall. So he has a chance to play in the NFL. Minnesota. If those haven't listened to the interview, just go back and search Locked On Sports Minnesota. Check out yesterday's Ron Johnson show. Ethan Robinson picked Minnesota because of the DB and the defensive pedigree that Minnesota has put into the NFL. When you look at Antoine Winfield, Tyler Nubin, Benjamin St-Juste, I mean, you can go with Eric Murray. You can go check out, you can go on and on and on. Blake Cashman, Carter Coughlin, Devondre Campbell. Like it's a lot. I think it's like over 18 defensive players in the NFL right now for the Gophers. And so when you Boy Mafe, like you can just keep going. Seze Atamewu. So he talked about that. And he also talked about the way they played versus Michigan was they realize in the second half they can't be greedy. Michigan can't throw the ball, so they can't allow them to get extra yards. And so this is a different mindset against USC. USC doesn't throw the ball or pass the ball, run the ball. They throw it. And so now the mindset going into this game is, what do we do in the second half? So PJ said if he could take the first half from Iowa and the second half from Michigan and put those two games together and then put them back out on the field for both, he wins both those games. And I think that's true. You look at the meltdown in the second half in Iowa, and you look at the comeback in the second half against Michigan, two totally different teams. So what they need to do, Miller Moss is legit. Jacoby can't guard Jack, as he goes by on Instagram and Twitter. He is 6'4", 195 pounds sophomore. This kid is legit. He has 4 touchdowns in the red zone. He is a big body. They have a 6'6" receiver as well. And so what they do, and they have a big tight end, what they do is they spread you out and they try to find the mismatches. And so what Ethan Robinson said, and what I think needs to happen for the Gophers, everybody has to trust their teammates, because you noticed against Northwestern last year, there was some mistrust in some of the plays, and we know what happened in that game at the end. Guys stopped trusting each other, and just everybody wanted to make the play. If they trust each other, and Miller Moss moves DBs with his eyes, don't let him move you with your eyes. Just stay in your spot. Trust that your other safety's over there. They will be fine, because that's how Michigan eventually slowed them down. They were throwing the ball at Michigan like crazy, and then eventually Michigan figured it out, and I think we saw the Will Johnson pick 6 because he was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm not playing this game anymore, and he took a chance, and he went and got the interception by playing his rules. I think you're going to see the same opportunities for Minnesota. It's just, can Ethan Robinson, can Green, can somebody make the catch? And Jack Henderson maybe, because he's been on the show. Like, we'll see. But I think they can win this, and I do think this gives them a better mindset going into a possible bowl game, because you still have UCLA, you still have like Rutgers, Maryland, so there's some games I think that are winnable. But the Big Ten is tough this year, and that's just the honest to God truth.
Trojans favored by 8 at FanDuel. Speaking of FanDuel, time for our NFL picks, and I'll pat myself on the back. It's been a good couple weeks for me since we started this challenge. I'm 5-1. I went 2-1 last week, losing on the Steelers, winning on the Vikes and Chargers. Reggie went 2-1. He got the Niners. He got the Ravens, lost on the Jets. Ron, tough week. He lost on the Saints.
I picked all the favorites, and they screwed me.
The Bills were not competitive. The Rams is the surprising one, losing to the Bears.
To the Bears.
Yeah, very disappointing. So we will start. Let's start with our third place person. That's Ron. Then we'll go to Julia, picking for Reggie, and then I will go third. Picking against the spread, 3 picks, starting with Ron.
So my first filet. Let me pull up my point-o-meter again. Here it is. The FanDuelisms. My first pick. And and I'm very scared of this pick, but I think I got to do it. I think I have to. Man, I'm scared. I'm so scared. I'm so scared of this one. You know what? Let me do it. Let me do it. So I'm gonna go and let me make sure this didn't change. Come on now. Where's it at?
Who are you thinking? I got it up.
What was the Ravens spread? Oh, there it is. 3.5, 2.5. Sorry. Give me the Ravens minus 2.5 over the Bungles.
Ravens minus 2.5. Just got to win by a field goal. Should be easy money. Julia.
Oh, so we go like all around and each pick 3?
We each pick one. Yep.
We pick one at a time.
So that way somebody doesn't steal all the good ones.
Okay. I'm not positive that I'm doing this right, but I'm going to go Dolphins over the Patriots.
What would the spread be on that? What let's see.
1.5.
Plus 1.5 I'm seeing. Okay. So you have more belief in who's their QB, Skylar Thompson, than Jacoby Brissett. I kind of like that, actually. Dolphins have not led for 1 second this season. Their only win was when they hit a last-second field goal, so they never actually led with time on the clock. That's kind of interesting. I am going to keep rolling with the Vikes.
I was going to do that one.
I've taken the Vikes 2 weeks in a row as underdogs. I think they're favored now for the first time since week 1, but I'm going to take it. 2.5 is a good number. Just got to win by a field goal in London. Vikings minus 2.5. Back to Ron.
I am going to go, because this guy's on the hot seat, so I think it's going to get even hotter. I'm going to go Colts over the Jags, plus 2.5.
Colts.
Doug Peterson might not be asked to back in the line. His key card won't work on Monday.
Julia.
I'm going to go Commanders over the Browns. Did we already do that one?
Nope.
Not yet. It's yours. Is that minus 3?
Yep, minus 3.
Minus 3. Okay. Is Kevin Stefanski on the hot seat?
I don't know. He's got some he's got some quarterback issues there because they're saying he should bench Deshaun Watson, and they're hoping that these charges don't go away and that they can take that money back. $92 million guaranteed they get back if this last issue wasn't disclosed, they get their money back. So I think they're praying for that. Messy
contract that they gave Deshaun Watson. Could have seen this one coming, actually. Not all that surprising. I think I'm going to ride this Caleb Williams train against the Panthers.
Oh yeah.
I like that. Panthers. Actually, you know what? Can I pivot? I'm going to pivot. Give me the Seahawks with the Giants flying cross country. Giants are bad. The Seahawks offense is great. I think the Seahawks minus 6.5 in Seattle. That's my preference here. So
big number.
It is. It's a touch. You got to win by a touchdown, but I really don't like the Giants. So give me the Seahawks minus 6.5. And Ron, you get your final pick.
Debatable. So you didn't take the Panthers, Bears.
I'll give it to you if you want it.
And the Panthers are bad, but I don't know. Andy Dalton. You don't know what you're going to get out of Red Rifle. Chiefs, Saints, that's a tough one there. Patrick Mahomes has no weapons. You know what? I'm going to go with a tough Steelers defense. I'm going to go Steelers over Cowboys.
Yeah.
Spread?
No. I know which one I want. Give me the Packers. Packers over Rams. Nobody picked that one. Minus 3. Packers over Rams, minus 3.
Packers over Rams, minus 3. Thank you. Julia.
I'm going to go Steelers over Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm debating on that one, but yeah.
Going against your team. Classic move.
No. Classic Cowboys move.
Minus 1.5. Steelers are a weird team. I don't know what to think of them. So the Bears are left for me. Minus 3.5. I'm going to take 3 favorites this week. Bears over Panthers. I'm fading Andy Dalton. I think I got Andy Dalton the first week, but the backup quarterback always comes back to earth. So we're going to stick it with the Bears. And those are the picks. Ron with the Ravens, Colts, and Packers. Julia, Dolphins, Commanders, Steelers. Sam, Vikings, Seahawks, Bears. Those are the picks, and we're sticking to them. We'll report back to you, Julia, how you do. And I'm sure we'll have you back on the show at some point. It is our Wednesday football special. Thank you so much for watching, commenting, listening on the Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast feed. Please subscribe on YouTube. We really appreciate that. Again, Sam Ekstrom, Locked On Sports Minnesota executive producer. That's Julia Daniels, Care 11. Ron Johnson, host of the Ron Johnson Show, Gophers and Vikings postcast, and everything else here at Locked On Sports Minnesota. We will talk to you next week. See ya.